Welcome, everyone. We are so excited tonight to have Lauren Lieberman and Pamela Beach as they share a wealth of knowledge this evening on teaching children with visual impairments as well as additional disabilities, including deafblindness. So we are so excited to have Lauren and Pam here with us. So with no further ado, go ahead, ladies, take it away.
All right. Well, thank you for the nice introduction, and thank you everyone for joining us. I'm Pamela Beach, and Lauren and I are both from SUNY Brockport. And as she said, we're super excited to be here. We've each conducted a few other webinars since last spring, and it's been a lot of fun. So we were glad to extend on some new ones. We've been doing a lot of stuff with visual impairment and additional disabilities, so we thought it'd be great to share some of that as well. We're going to have a big focus on some great resources that we made through the funded through the Lavelle Foundation, and yeah, so we're excited to do that. So I'll let Lauren introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. It's great to see so many people here. I know that people are wanting an opening code. Melissa, can you give an opening? Thank you, Melissa. Thanks, everybody, for your patience. So I'm Lauren Lieberman, and I'm a professor at SUNY Brockport in the kinesiology, sports studies, and physical education. And I started my career at Perkins School for the Blind. And I teach adapted physical education undergraduate and graduate programs. And I'm also the founder of Capabilities. And we now have Capabilities all over the world. And I have a lot of books and articles, and we'll learn about more of our resources as we go on. So thank you so much, Pam. And now, Pam, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Like I said, I'm Pam Beach, and I'm also in the same department, kinesiology, sports studies, and physical education at SUNY Brockport. I also do most of my research is on visual impairment and deafblindness, and Lauren and I co-direct the Institute for Movement Studies with individuals with visual impairments. We'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. My areas that I teach are motor learning, motor development. I do some aging classes, and I've co-authored also some books and a lot of articles, webinars, videos on visual impairment. So again, happy to be here.
Can you back up 1 second? Sorry, I didn't describe the picture. The picture on the left, we just want to tell you, the picture on the left is Haben Gurma and my student Megan Hale and me. We saw Haben on Monday night, and it was awesome, and it was just amazing to have her at RIT. And so that was a picture of just something pretty recently with Haben. And the picture on the right is Pam working with one of our kids at the Charge Syndrome Conference.
Yeah, a little girl named Layla. She was amazing. She picked up everything so fast. She was really fun to work with. She just kept wanting to try something more and more. All right. So in previous webinars, at least a couple of them, we've shown a video on our institute. So we're not going to show that again, but it is available through our website. It's on the bottom, www.brockport.edu/IMSVI. But as part of our institute, we do a lot, anything from programming, and I'm sure most of you are familiar or at least aware of Capabilities, leadership opportunities for students, where students can conduct workshops, attend conferences, and present at conferences, educational opportunities with a lot of adapted physical education students. And as we had mentioned, we are always doing a lot of research. So very busy in a lot of different directions. So we wanted to just kind of start off and get a little bit more about who all of you are. I can't unfortunately see my chat, so because I'm sharing my screen, but Lauren, if you could share some of who's out there. We saw where everyone's from. If anyone wants to share what they do. I know we have a very large group, so we can't really go around to everybody.
New Hampshire, TVI comms, Jane D. Hardy from Mississippi. TVI and O&M, TVI comms, CVRT. We have Carmen, APE people, PTs, TVIs, educational assistant. Awesome. Thank you for coming. Comms, VR. Whoa, TVI, PT, TVI, O&M from San Francisco. Welcome. TVI comms, TVI vision consultant, Braille with Knox County Schools. Welcome. TCVI working towards being a TVI in Australia. Awesome. Good luck. You're doing amazing. From Wyoming. Amazing. Such a great diversity of people with so many backgrounds.
Right. Fantastic. Thank you. So a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of TVIs and comms. Thank you for sharing. And if you could do the same with sharing some of the disabilities for the individuals that you work with. So in addition to visual impairment, what are some other disabilities that you work with?
CP, autism, charge, autism. You guys are amazing. CP, charge syndrome, CP, TBI, charge, albinism, yep, cognitive deficits, CVI, autism, RP, Down syndrome. Wow. You guys are amazing. Usher syndrome, charge, CP, autism, muscular dystrophy, spinal cord injury, Leber's, multiple impairments, all deafblind, Down syndrome, deafblind, autism, CP, CVI, deafblind, Angel Williamson, CVI, Williamson syndrome, CVI, charge, albinism, all. Thank you, Jennifer. All. Mary, thank you. Multiple impairment, all of it. Choroideremia, quadrone dystrophy, Duane's, autism. Some of these I haven't heard of before. Multiple impairment, severe multiple Rett's. We have several kids with Rett's. Oh, thank you, everybody. Wow, what a great diversity of students you have. It's amazing.
All right, thank you. So well represented for sure. So that's fantastic. So just to run through our outline for tonight, we're going to just start off talking about what exactly are we talking about? So what populations? And then we'll get into some more specifics with some of the goals of physical activity. Why are we doing this? Why are we so focused on physical activity and movement? We'll talk about some different approaches, the top-down versus bottom-up learning, and give you some tips on how to best position. And then we'll get into some assessment approaches, support staff, and sport opportunities. And we will leave you with lots of great resources.
So a lot of you work with kids with visual impairments and additional disabilities. And just to give you some background, when I taught at Perkins School for the Blind, all my kids had multiple disabilities. All the kids had visual impairment and deaf plus. And so I am very familiar with all these disabilities, but also we just got a big, huge Lavelle grant to do resources in this area. And so Pam's going to cover a lot of the resources that we already made. This is just the beginning of our 3-year grant. So we have one video that we're going to show you part of, and then we're going to keep showing you more videos as we make them with kids with visual impairment and additional disabilities. So I just want to share what kind of disabilities we're talking about. And this is the thing, most kids with visual impairments are not vanilla blind. They have other disabilities. They might have a cortical or cerebral visual impairment. They might have charge syndrome. Marfan syndrome also is accompanied by visual impairment. Down syndrome, some of you said you have kids with Down syndrome because they also might have a visual impairment. We have kids with cerebral palsy, all levels of cerebral palsy, all levels of autism. Osteogenesis imperfecta, one of the side effects or other disabilities is also a visual impairment. And there are a lot of other disabilities, both genetic and acquired, that result in kids with visual impairment and additional disabilities. Oh wait, I forgot, sorry. This picture is of one of our kids from the Charge Conference doing some balance activities during one of our extravaganzas. So this is a picture of one of our kids from one of our programs who has a visual impairment, and he also has an intellectual disability and some cerebral palsy, and he has his toy in his hand that he couldn't let go. So we're trying to do hand over hand and help him with the parachute. And we just think about like this one activity for this one child and think of the goals of physical activity. So I'll start with activities of daily living. So the goals of physical activity, if a child can hold on to a Frisbee, or they can hold on to this parachute, and they can work on their shoulder strength and grip strength. What kind of activities of daily living could they do? They can brush their teeth, they could brush their hair, they might be able to zipper their coat. So a lot of these activities that we do are helping with all kinds of activities of daily living, stability, socialization. It's the foundation of what we do. And then also it leads to independence with more mobility independence, more independent living skills. Having all those fine motor and gross motor skills really helps. And when the kids can be involved in more sports and activities, then they can talk about more things. They have a greater range of socialization, and that leads to obviously to self-determination, knowing that they can do these different sports, being more independent, being more social. Then they can be very involved in sports and recreation participation, like they can really excel in that area. But if they don't have these foundations, then we won't get to that next level of being competent in sport and recreation. So I'm just going to talk about top-down or bottom-up learning, and some of you might have heard about this. And this is Pam's specialty, but I'll explain it. Pam, you tell me if I got it right or wrong, okay? So bottom up, when you have the bottom up philosophy, it's more looking at the basic neurology and coordination. And so you might just look at stability, or proprioception, or eye-hand coordination in itself. It's just one small skill would be bottom up, a foundational skill. And mostly I think of that as physical therapy. But what we do in physical education is top down. So you take the sport or game or activity, and you have that is to develop those lower skills. So for example, the picture on the right here is a boy who is pretty severe disability, and he's using bowling to work on his eye-hand coordination and his muscle strength and gross motor coordination. And so having that skill of bowling, working on those foundational skills, that's top down. And then the picture on the left is just a boy learning how to swim, and he's using swimming to work on upper body skills, physical activity. And that would be top down because it's through the sport and activity of swimming. And so on this picture on the top is a boy who's actually learning how to do grip strength. He's learning eye-hand coordination through batting. That's the top-down approach, working on all those fine motor skills and those independent skills, working on stability and muscle strength. And then the bottom is a child with a pretty severe disability, and she has two hockey sticks, and she's holding on to it with her arms. So she's coordinating her upper body, she's working on her stability, and she's being part of a sport and a game. And so this is a top-down approach to work on some of those fundamental motor skills. Welcome, Lisa. So when you think about teaching students with moderate, severe disabilities, they have visual impairment and other disabilities, we have to think about ways that we can teach this. And so we're going to show you a video later with a lot more of this. But think about throwing, pushing a ball down a ramp, working on grasping and releasing. And you can see here manipulatives, catching, tracking a suspended ball, reaching for balloons, even bubbles is something you could work on. And things like kicking, striking, and then running, jumping, hopping, and skipping. Thinking about how you can break that down and make sure kids with more severe disabilities learn these skills. We still have to have a high level of expectation for them. And then also we have to look at perceptual motor, we look at balance, spatial awareness, visual motor coordination. you'll see on our Capabilities website under instructional materials, we have a really cool video about how do you promote balance with children with Charge syndrome, and you can generalize that to other kids with other disabilities as well. And this picture on the bottom is a top-down approach. It's in the pool. We're doing the limbo, and the limbo is the top-down skill to learn how to float on your back and to be buoyant and social in the water. Thought that was a really fun one.
Lauren, we have a hand raised.
Okay, what?
I can't see the chat, but I saw a hand went up.
Okay, let me see. Just put your question in the chat. Let's see. Raise hand, because I don't see what it says, a raised hand.
I just saw it pop up. I think it was Carol.
Oh, as a teacher of the visually impaired, do we consult with the PT or OT? And in my experience, you have to consult with everybody on the IEP team. Yeah, and so basically you're helping them, they're helping you. It should be a reciprocal relationship. But you're also, as a teacher of the visually impaired, you're also consulting with the physical education, adapted physical education teacher as well. Good question. And then Eleni says she consults all the time. Okay. And like thinking about foundational skills, you have to think about all three domains. So you think about the psychomotor skills. How do we promote balance, visual perception, let's say posture, object control? These are things we have to think about. What are the foundational skills that you need to build on these skills, which are foundational to being able to be involved in sports and recreation? How do we build the affective skills of facial expression, social interaction, sensory input? It all comes from the sports that we teach and physical activity. Cognitive skills, the cause and effect, first, then, prior experiences, practicing receptive and expressive communication, whether it's signed, whether it's visual or verbal, or if it's using PEC systems. We have to embed this into what we do as far as kids with visual impairments and additional disabilities. Are you explaining this, Pam? Yeah.
All right, can you see the video?
Do you want me to explain it before you start it?
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant explaining during the video. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just want to explain that, as I mentioned earlier, we have a big Lavelle grant from the Lavelle Fund for the Blind. And this is our second year in the 3-year grant. But last year we created this video at an awesome family conference. It's called Foundational Skills, Teaching Children with Visual Impairments and Additional Disabilities. So you'll see kids with an array of disabilities doing fundamental motor skills in different ways. And these are all ways that I would promote and encourage people to use, because otherwise we won't have our kids to have these foundational skills.
Right, and the closed captioning should be on.
Take notes, because there's going to be a test.
Dr. Lauren Lieberman. Thank you for watching this video series on how to teach children with visual impairments and additional disabilities. We want to thank the Lavelle Fund for the Blind, Capabilities, and the Institute on Movement Studies for Individuals with Visual Impairment. We hope you will
Melissa, can you get the audio back?
It was on for a second and I'm not sure what happened with the video.
And when she
Now we can hear it.
And she can engage like the other kids, she feels like one of the kids, right? And she gets friends and has a fantastic time doing that.
Welcome. This video demonstrates how to teach children with visual impairments and additional disabilities about physical activity. We hope you find the strategies and suggested equipment useful. Our goal is to help parents, teachers, paraeducators, and specialists help children reach their full potential in physical activity, in sports, and in life. General teaching strategies. Children with visual impairments and additional disabilities have a range of vision, independence, and mobility skills. It is important not to help too much, but instead to provide enough support to enable them to execute a skill. Tactile modeling. Tactile modeling is when a child touches the instructor or peer to feel the execution of a skill. Then they know what to expect. The instructor uses consistent verbal, sign, or tactile cues and feedback. Physical guidance. Physical guidance is when the instructor helps the child execute a skill using partial or total physical assistance. The instructor uses consistent verbal, sign, or tactile cues and feedback. Co-active movement. Co-active movement is when the instructor moves with the child through a skill, so the child can feel the motion and tempo of the skill through the instructor's body. Physical assistance. Many children will need partial or total physical assistance to execute a skill. This is an excellent method of teaching children to learn a novel skill or activity. In this section, we will review locomotor skills. Running. One option for running and walking is to use a guide wire with a carabiner and looped rope. A second option is a tether, which is a short rope held by a guide and the runner. This option works well for running, walking, and wheeling in a chair. Option 3 is a human guide leading a student who holds the guide's elbow. Option 4 is circular running, which one does in a field or grassy area using a stake and a long rope. A treadmill can also be used to walk or run. Hopping on one leg, galloping, and skipping. Students can hop, gallop, or skip using similar techniques as running, utilizing a guide wire, a tether, a human guide, or circular running. They can also execute these activities in other ways. They can move next to a wall for security or touch the wall for physical support. They can hold onto another person or a bar for balance assistance. They can even use a pool for these locomotor skills. Sliding. The student can slide next to a wall, a guide wire, or with physical support. They can also slide with demonstration. Jumping. Students may jump independently or with physical assistance. The student can step over a mat, line, or a rope with tape over it. The student can jump onto a mat or jump next to a wall for support. In this section, we will go over object control skills. Throwing. The student can learn the throwing motion while tracing tape on a wall with their hand. They can throw from sitting. They can throw a ball on a string pulled across the gym. Other options include throwing a ball hanging from a string. They can even throw balloons, beanbags, yarn balls, or balls of different sizes. Kicking. The student can kick from a sitting position. They can kick using their walker. They can kick with physical assistance. They can even kick using different types of balls, such as a sound ball, therapy ball, bell ball, or a beeping ball. Catching. There are many options for teaching catching. The student can use a beach ball, yarn ball, or a balloon. They can use a sound-emitting ball, a ball on a string hung from a basketball rim, or a ball that is inside a sock, or any suspended ball. Batting. The student can bat off a tee. They can bat from a sitting position with and without physical assistance. Another option is to use a racket with a lightweight ball. And as with catching, a student can bat a sound-emitting suspended ball. Rolling. A student can learn rolling in several ways. They can roll from a sitting position. They can roll a ball to a sound source. They can use bean bags, yarn balls, or different size balls. Striking with a racket. A student can learn striking in several different ways. They can strike a ball or balloon from standing or from sitting. They can strike from a tee. They can strike suspended balls, balloons, bell balls in a sock, or birdies with bells. They can use their hand, a lollipop racket, a badminton or tennis racket. In this section, we will review fitness. Jump rope. There are lots of ways to teach a student to jump rope. You can step over a line, roll a wheelchair over a line, step over a jump rope, roll over a jump rope, use a cordless jump rope from standing or sitting, step over a rope and swing overhead, and then step. Task analyze the skill of jump rope and swing, then jump in 2 parts. Put it together and try for number of times or for time. Push-ups. Push-ups can be done in many ways. The student can do wheelchair push-ups, wall push-ups, push-ups on a wedge bolster, push-ups onto a small therapy ball, bent knee push-ups, straight leg push-ups, and then you can challenge for time or number. Sit-ups. Students can perform sit-ups on a wedge bolster with physical assistance or independently. They can do sit-ups on a mat with assistance or independently. You can motivate the students with a ball or a high five at the top. Weight training. The student can hold any weight for time. They can do bicep curls using any weight for repetitions. The student can lift weights overhead and hold, or lift weights overhead and bring down to the shoulder and repeat. The student can also use elastic exercise bands for all of these activities. Assessment. Assessing students with multiple disabilities can be done using the 3 Ps. The process of the skill is describing exactly how the student executes the skill. The product is a number, such as how long, how many, or how far the child performs the skill. The parameter is how you set up the environment, what equipment you use, and how much assistance you use.
Enhance abilities. You never say that you can never do something.
Thank you to Lauren Lieberman, Pamela Beach, Ruth Childs, Tristan Pierce, Dr. Ninka Dosa, Michelle Grenier, Eric Tuttle, AXA CNY, SUNY Brockport, and SUNY Portland.
All right. I don't know if we have any questions coming in. Will I switch over?
A good question. How can you access the video? If you go to campabilities.org and you can click on instructional materials, and there's tons of videos there. We'll talk about that a little later, but you'll see here's the Lavelle resources. There's the Lavelle resource page, and then there's the instructional materials that has even more resources as well as the Lavelle resources. Oh, thank you, Melissa. Perfect.
All right. Okay, back to you, Lauren.
Oh, so just want to talk just for a couple minutes. Oh, thank you for Eleni. That was nice saying that video is well done. We took a whole year in working on the Lavelle grant on that video. So thank you. I hope people can learn from that and it can help people. But I just want to talk for a minute about what we could assess. We talked about the 3 Ps, but when you think about bottom up or top down or foundational skills, we have to think about ambulation. How does a child move? How fast or how far can they walk or push their chair? Their stability and trunk control. How far can they reach down and pick up a ball? Or how far can they reach down and do an activity or yoga or fencing? Can they grasp and release on command? How fast can they grasp and release? I mean, that has a lot to do with some fine motor skills related to racket sports and a lot of other sports. Frisbee, for one. Communication, also making sure they have a way to communicate what they like, what they don't like, helping you keep score and goal setting. And then how long can they attend? I know this is something we try to measure with everybody. How can we assess attention and what motivates kids? Because that's the foundation also of universal design. What gets their attention and for how long? And then looking at flexibility, arm flexibility, leg flexibility, making sure that they stay limber so that they can be involved in physical activity throughout their lifetime. So I think about the 3 Ps. We talked about the 3 Ps earlier, the process, the product, and the parameter. And so you look at the level of assistance, which is the parameter. And then you can also look at the process checklist or a task analysis. And so then you can get a percentile score. So on the left here is a boy using a wheelchair playing with one of those big blow up footballs. And on the right is a boy playing with a very lowered basket from his wheelchair, shooting a basket. So think about this, how do we assess these skills? So there's a boy on the left who has a blue life jacket on and he's just laying in the pool and he has a nice grin on his face. So I would say it's a back float with a flotation device. So the back float is the process. The product is how long he can float, maybe independently. And then independently or with physical assistance would be the parameter. That would be on the left. On the right, there's a boy doing the bowling from his wheelchair off of a ramp. So I would say the process is pushing the ball off the ramp. The product is how fast or how many times he can do it or how far away he can sit from that. And then the parameter would be how much support or help or demonstration or physical assistance does he need. So let's think about it. What are the 3 Ps for the parachute? Who can tell me one of the 3 Ps, the process, product, or parameter? What would it be for parachute? Process, lifting the parachute overhead. Thank you, Ricky Lynn. Lifting the parachute above your head. That's the process. Good. What would the product be? Who can think of what the product be of lifting the parachute if your goal was to play parachute? Movement, how long they can hold it exact, the product, the height or the number of times, how high they can lift it, excellent. So the ways we can measure that, how many times, time to perform, exactly. You can do it by time, you can do it by repetitions, okay? And then what would the parameter be, the support be? What would some example be here? The parameter. Do they need assistance? Right. Do they have help to hold it? And how much help did they need? Exactly. All right. You guys are very good listeners. You're going to get a good grade. And so the next little part here, ability to grip the parachute. That's a good way to measure. So positioning here, I just wanted to throw out some different ways, because one of the big things I learned from Perkins with all the PTs and all the assistants there, positioning is everything. And when you can give your child the proper position, they have a lot more range of motion. They can see the best possible sight, and they can function in the highest level of their ability. So I'm going to just talk about some different positioning. So here on the right, we have a boy who's on a big wedge mat, okay? But we're going to be talking about positioning in a wheelchair, over a bolster, on a mat or wedge, prone or supine, on a scooter, an exercise ball, and in the pool. And I just want to ask, I know I saw a lot of PTs and OTs here. If you want to jump in on any of these positioning ideas and give advice, Pam, maybe you can monitor that, because I think a lot of people here have a lot to give and a lot to offer with this area. I only know what I learned at Perkins, so that's what I'm going by. So there's one idea is lying on the front over a wedge mat. And so you guys know what a wedge mat is? Like a cheese wedge. Sitting on a mat with support from behind so the students can push balls back and forth. They can drop scarves or bean bags into buckets. So basically it would be this blue mat that you're seeing, but the child be turned over. And do that with physical support, with independently. They can also reach up high in the air to grab into buckets or baskets and drop items into higher targets. That way you're working on lifting their chin and upper body development. Lying supine on a mat, like a lot of our kids function best when they're just on a flat mat. So while they're lying on their back, they can kick a ball off their feet, like maybe just a smaller ball or even a big therapy ball. They can also pull a scarf off of their face. They can push a ball off their chest. They can reach up for scarves or objects, or if they can see the bubbles. And they can practice grasping and releasing into hula hoops or buckets. And they can also, some of the kids do what's called body bowling from this position, where they're rolling and they're knocking over cones or they're knocking over bowling pins. And then here's lying prone on a scooter. So scooters are awesome for kids of all abilities. But I have kids like they would sit on a hula hoop, on a scooter, hold on to a hula hoop and be pulled around on the hula hoop. And that way they're working on grasping and releasing. I use that to teach the kids more, again, please. And so they're actually building language skills with this kind of thing. Scooters are very motivating. Sometimes they can push themselves as much as possible. Just going to go back to scooters 1 second. Because like they could go on their front or their back, but they can push themselves as much as possible and use their arms as much as possible. Some kids might do it in tandem with another friend, and then they can often go even further. And this person said, Jill said, I use a bucket chair on a large wheeled scooter so that they won't fall backwards. That's a really good idea. And some scooter boards are made that way with a back support. Okay, thank you, Jill. Let me just talk a bit about the pool. If you are fortunate enough to get to swim, there's just so many things you could do in the pool. You could work on locomotor skills. You can work on object control because it's a very buoyant environment. You can also work on swim skills like floating, propulsion, kicking, breathing. There's so many things you can work on in the pool, of course, games and socialization as well. So I just really encourage kids to have pool time. And then Ikeka said, I like to remind our teams that if our students have to exert effort just to keep themselves upright, unless that's the goal, there's a good chance you likely get diminished performance for physical and cognitive tasks. That's true, Ikeka, good point. And Zobel said, for students with CVI, if you're using something visual for motivation, just be sure to choose bright, maybe solid colored objects and try to eliminate complexity to their visual array to make it easier for them to look. Zobel, Zobel, I think. That's a really good point. And we're going to talk about a lot more about kids with CVI in a little bit. So thank you for the preview. And then just going from the pool to obviously kids, a lot of kids use wheelchairs. And so here's a picture of a rope pulled across the gym with some scarves and some socks with balls in them. And they're doing a great job of reaching and grasping and hitting with peers. And so that's what the picture's about. But in wheelchairs, kids can push objects off their laptops or their trays. And as you saw in the video, they can also take, let's say, a ball on a string, a football or a wiffle ball on a string that's pulled across the room and push it to practice throwing. Again, they can reach for objects that are dangling from strings, from the basket hoop, from the basket, or the string pulled across the gym like this one. Wait, one more, Pam, sorry. They can also grasp items such as socks and a tennis ball and socks, and wiffle balls, scarves, like this picture, koosh balls. They love koosh balls. And they can also bat balloons. They can pull on therabands like you saw in the video. They can bat using a racket. They can bat off a tee. And they can also bat just even using their hand. And a crate can be attached to the wheelchair to practice maneuvering their chair and knocking over items, or practicing soccer, like power soccer. So many options. And so just a couple quick things about aquatics. Think about pool transfers, what kind of transfer that child needs. The temperature should be at least 84 degrees. At Perkins, the pool is 92 degrees. It was awesome. One-to-one instruction works the best, especially with kids with multiple disabilities. Consider all your positioning and your assessments. Also, medical issues are a lot more pronounced when we're doing aquatics. We really have to think about how we're going to work with kids with trachs and feeding tubes, kids who might have seizures, really to have strong considerations for that. But most importantly, treat them as kids. They're kids who have a visual impairment and another disability. So work on locomotor, independence. We're still going to work on fitness, swim skills, and of course, games and activities. And I know that we're really short on time, so I'm just going to talk about, make sure you train your paraeducators and peer tutors, because I want to get to Pam to talk about all the Lavelle resources. Oh, this is just talking about some different sport opportunities. We have, of course, there's power soccer. These are for kids with multiple disabilities. Power hockey, tabletop cricket, which is a really cool thing in the UK. Boccia, swimming, sitting volleyball, archery, and other sports. So we have a lot more about this in our book, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But if you want to know more about these sports and kids with more multiple disabilities, we'll talk about that.
Right, this was your last one before I was taking over.
You can go ahead, Pam. I don't want to run out of time.
All right, so I wanted to talk about all of the different resources that we do have. So just afraid to lose you here, but I want to show you how to find them. So if you go to campabilities.org, kind of back up and just start there. Capabilities. I'm losing it. And you can find all of these resources under this link, Lavelle Resources for Children with Moderate and Severe Disabilities. I'd also like to draw your attention to the instructional materials because there are just so many. We have lots of videos. These ones are more focused on just with a visual impairment. Some are with deafblindness. We go through a variety of sports here. We have some on balance, some on staff training, motor development. If you went to some of our other talks, we focused on some of these where we did one with charge syndrome. We followed all the different skills with motor development kind of in a little bit more depth than what we did with the video today. And we also keep going down, more videos, a lot of tip sheets.
Wait, don't forget outdoor adventure. We have 6 outdoor adventure videos.
Yeah, so a lot of different, so it's not just sports, so also lifetime activities. We had a focus on outdoor types of activities, some on the water, some land, so fishing, biking, hiking, kayaking, rock climbing, and paddleboarding. Some books that are available for free download, games for people with sensory impairment. Our gross motor development curriculum pairs with the video. So we have both the full book as well as the full instructional video to give you lots of different examples of what you can do. So some tips for how to modify an activity, how to modify the equipment for a variety of different skills, really focusing on those basic motor skills and balance and some fitness as well. So just because we don't have a ton of time, I'm going to jump back to, these are the ones I'm focusing on today. They're under the Lavelle Resources for Children with Moderate and Severe Disabilities. And with these, we've got a variety of different activities. So if you want to focus on a particular activity, but that we have tip sheets specifically focusing on visual impairment, and so it could be visual impairment and autism. I'll be kind of walking us through that so you can see an example, but you can see we've got cerebral palsy, charge syndrome, CVI, Downs, Marfan syndrome. So a lot of different options there.
And the video at the bottom is the one we showed earlier, and you can share that and show that to people.
Yes, so it is available for you to watch again and again. All right, so those are our tip sheets. And then I just wanted to show you what they look like. So this is an example of our tip sheet on autism, which tells you a little bit about the etiology, some general characteristics. So just general information about the condition, and then we get into modifications. Let me go. So I pulled some of those modifications just with a bigger font so that you could see it a little better. So some examples for VI and ASD, we have a variety of activities and being open to those different activities, thinking of different ways that you can incorporate them or modify them. It's the consideration using activities for the family or community to increase opportunities. A goal is to try to integrate the kids so that they can be involved with other activities and recreation activities, whether they're the community or the school. It's super important. I'm sure you all know establishing daily routines, very, very important, but also with movement and physical activity, trying to continue some of those so that they can start to become more and more independent and be able to predict what they're going to be doing. Some ideas for universal design, clear and simple explanations can be very helpful. Where's the location, equipment, boundaries. If you use a tactile board, for example, can be useful so they can have a better idea, maybe walk them through the boundaries so they have an idea for how big the boundaries are, the court or the field or whatever it might be that you're working on. Try to, again, keeping in mind simplifying, eliminating unnecessary equipment or distractions so that they can really focus as much as possible. With the transition, again, simple cues, forewarning, letting them know what's going on, that anticipation, that scheduling, something they're prepared for. Identify and mitigate inappropriate behavior, like kind of prepare for what you might expect so you could try to mitigate that as much as possible. Again, any types of verbal cues, trying to keep them on top of things so they're prepared for that. We showed in the video physical guidance. That could be very helpful if they're not sure what the movements are. So, you know, always ask them if they're okay with you using physical guidance. And if they do like that method, then that can be very effective. If you need to, using a corrective procedure during the instruction, if they make some type of mistake, help them with that. Action words can be helpful, that they understand what it is that you need them to do. Sometimes just using some different language if what you're using isn't working for them, but a variety of different ways to explain things, but again, try to keep it simple. And reward structures can always be helpful. So try to focus on the positives instead of the punishing poor performance or poor behavior. Focus on something that gets them encouraged. So what works for them, as we know, every child's a little different, what gets them motivated. So we also have some activity-based assessments in there. So they can break down different levels of independence. So IND would be that the child is able to perform the task without any assistance. Partial physical assistance, PPA, they need some assistance, so they're able to begin to do it more so on their own. And so there can be a great variation with how much partial assistance that they need. And then, of course, TPA would be total physical assistance, where they need a lot of assistance. To give an example for an assessment for sensory awareness, we've got, again, 3, 2, 1 points for independence, partial assistance, or total assistance. And things to look at are if they're attempting to attend to some of the stimuli. So what are they focusing on? What are they listening to? What are they responding to? Are they attending briefly to some stimuli? Are they tracking? So they could be, depending on their amount of vision, they could be tracking by sight, sound, or touch. All right. So a variety of senses. It really depends on the task. And you could assess on a variety, like on more than one of those senses. Exploring the object by sight, sound, or touch. So give them multiple opportunities to explore, and as well as playing with that. So then you can kind of come up with a summary score, total score, and then come up with an independence score. So how much of that are they doing independently? How much with some assistance, and so forth. Here's another example with throwing. And so we talked a little bit about the importance of grasping, and so holding and grasping a small object and moving towards that grasping and being able to release that object and controlling when you're releasing that. So the size of the object, you want it to be smaller. It's going to be a lot easier for throwing a smaller ball than a larger ball. And then you want to start to look at their movements. If they start to have bigger movements, so they can start to project the ball a little better, and if they're able to actually grasp and release. So again, what they're able to do independently or with some assessment. So I just picked one example from each to go over, but we have a lot more, so we could spend hours on this, but I just wanted to give you a sampling. But as I said, everything is available for you, so we want it to be as useful as possible. So a mobility example for walking, and we've got mobility examples using wheelchairs. There's a lot of different potential options as you have a lot of kids with varying capabilities. So here you're looking at if they're attempting to move during an activity, using appropriate movement for the activity, purposeful movements. They can follow part of a movement or more than that movement. So yeah, I did put the wheelchair one in here. So manual wheelchair. So they can place their hands on the wheels of the chair, push the chair with assistance. If they can move forward with a rotation, and so forth. So you get the picture, but these are all available. So I know we're running out of time, so I was moving a little faster, but here's our contact information. We're very happy to connect with you. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out to either or both of us. And we really appreciate all of you attending. It was great attendance. So we love that you were able to join us tonight. And I can't see the chat, but if there's any questions, Lauren, if you could fire those away.
Kathleen said, oh, so many people are saying great resources. This is incredible. We've been working on this for years. We have what's called the 63,000 project. We don't do any research without making a practical component, whether it's an article, tip sheets, or video. So we have so many resources and they all stem from research. And so we appreciate everybody's support. Thank you. Thank you. Please use the resources. We've been working really hard on them. And it would make our funders proud. The Lavelle Fund for the Blind, obviously Capabilities, and WXXI. There's so many people that have supported all these videos and these resources.
It takes a village or several villages.
It does. Yeah. Well, I just want to thank Pam. I could never have done any of this without Pam. Pam, thank you so much. You're a great motivator. Thank you, Lisa.
We're a good team.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Yvette. Thanks, Kim and Jennifer. The ending code, go Bill. Can I just say one thing? If anybody needs us to help you with individual cases with kids, we've been working with school districts and helping people troubleshoot their inclusion or their adapted physical education placements or even services. So please feel free to reach out to us, email us, connect with us, and let us know how we can help you.
Wonderful.
And Melissa, I believe the slides will be available. Is that correct?
Yep, they will. The recording will also go onto our YouTube, as well as the PowerPoint presentation will also be housed there as well. So excellent. Thank you, ladies, so much for once again an amazing opportunity to learn from you both. And more than anything, just continuing to provide such amazing resources to all of us who work in the field. So thank you all, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Melissa.